One of the bills that I followed closely was delaying the entrance to kindergarten. You know, Connecticut is one of just 4 states that allows a kid to turn 5 all the way up until January 1st of the year during which they are enrolled in kindergarten. And for all of our successes nationally, and for all of the acclaim that we get for our educational system, we're a remarkable anomaly in allowing such late entrance. Now, I'm going to look at kids as a school psychologist would. I'm going to look at them developmentally and behaviorally and socially and interpersonally and neurologically. And I can tell you, when you send a 4-year-old to school and they're competing with sometimes 5- and 6-year-olds, the way the law is currently fashioned in Connecticut, and if you look at the habits of parents in a variety of communities who delay the entrance of their kids, then what you're going to find is that you can have 18 months or so of a span, a range of ages, all in the same kindergarten classroom. Now, all of you who are parents know that 18 months in the life of a kiddo who's 5, now that's over 20% of their time on Earth. That's a huge piece of time and experience. And so in framing a more solid footing for learning, delaying the entrance age for kindergarten was a real concern of mine. It did not pass, and it did not pass because the feeling was, if we did that and we phased it in, that we would be excluding some very needy kids who would be eligible to go to kindergarten. We would be excluding them because we would not be able to provide and fund an adequate preschool experience for them. So I think you can follow the logic of that argument. But one thing that I would ask you to entertain as a conversation in all of your own school districts is, as legislators, Andrea and I always have to say, so where are we getting the money, dear? However, let's conceptualize preschool experiences as a kind of local collaborative where your school district and your school personnel reach out to your existing cadre of providers in the community. And they reach out, as we do in Lime Old Lyme, by doing luncheons and breakfasts, by sharing professional development, by creating dialogue, giving materials away, communicating with parent consent on a variety of kid issues. If we think in terms of bricks and mortar, then Andrea and I are stuck with the conversation, where are we going to find the money, dear? However, if we are expansive and think outside of the box on how do we provide these preschool experiences without building more buildings and without creating classrooms, but using the existing network that is out there in our communities, we might be able to kind of bridge that gap and help ourselves without spending money that at the moment we don't have. Comments, you know, I come to the Closing the Achievement Gap Task Force with a background in psychometrics just because of my training as a school psychologist. And I agree with you that when we develop the achievement gap, we're using a statistical method of averaging, it's the mean. But there are more descriptive statistics that would tell perhaps a different story. It is because a median would give you the midpoint of a distribution, and a mode would give you how many numbers, how many kids are falling in certain categories. And my point is this. Our achievement gap may not be as stark as it is. And I think Senator Stillman will speak to this. She also is on an education cost-sharing task force. And one of the questions and comments that I made to her before we went live here with all of you was, Andrea, please, when you do this, please show us where the money goes. Please paint the money trail for us, because many districts get huge amounts of money, and I'll use Bridgeport as an example. And when I talk with a teacher in Bridgeport, and that teacher doesn't have basic supplies in her classroom, yet we are funding that, I think that there is a money trail to be followed so that we make sure that kids and teachers are the beneficiaries of an enhanced funding. And clearly we are enhancing funding to certain targeted urban areas. But that would be my response to you, and that is my request to Senator Stillman. You know, I also serve on the Program Review and Investigations Committee. It's kind of a legislative watchdog committee to see if if the agencies and functions of government are doing what they're supposed to be doing, so we're kind of measuring efficacy a lot of the time. And I had a lot to do with bringing forward a study that took a look at teacher certification, reciprocity, and also the BEST program. And just to answer your question, I demanded of the committee staff that they survey actual teachers and get responses from them. Because in my opening remarks, if you'll remember, I spoke about the policy level at 30,000 feet and you all being in the trenches there every day. So to me, your input is really very pivotal. It was my fear in accepting Race to the Top money because suddenly you are under a large rubric that is not made by you. And part of why, in having misgivings about secondary school reform, my misgivings really had to do with taking away local control and making state standards. You know, I think we're just around the bend from people talking about state curricula so that we can homogenize our CAPT and CMT test scores so that we can try to reduce the achievement gap. And that might sound like an okay idea on the face of it, but when you start looking at the applications kid to kid, classroom to classroom, the difference between Westport and Waterbury, there's a wide range out there. So thank you for your comment. It certainly weighs heavily on my mind.